Hi everyone, and welcome to Human Design 101. I'm Paula Fehrmann, your host, qualified life trust coach and human design fanatic. I guide my clients to become their own experts by understanding and, more importantly, living their design. When I first came to human design, I was so overwhelmed by the triangles, squares, arrows, and numbers in the chart that I didn't touch it for more than a year. However, my human design experiment has been the most important transformation in my life, which is why I want to show you how you can use your design as a simple tool to heal, transform, integrate, grow, and ultimately become your own expert. No more looking for the experts outside of you. Keep listening and learning here on the podcast, reach out for private coaching, or book a chart reading with me. Let's talk Human Design 101. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. This week again, this month again, perhaps even, with Lea for Accept and Reflect with Lea and Paula. We're bringing these episodes to you to help you feel supported, to remind you that whatever you're going through is probably very normal, and we're hoping to provide you with new perspectives on everyday life events, challenges, joy, and delight. And so hopefully you're leaving this episode feeling uplifted, connected, and reminded of your own strength. So, hi Lea, nice to have
Hello.
you. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm tuning in from Berlin today. And we just had I feel like Mercury is now fully in the microwave. So many delays, so many things are not working out, but then they're actually working out better.
So see, this is so interesting because to me it feels like Mercury has now come out of the microwave. Like the first part of it was crazy for me. I was like, this has probably been the most prominent Mercury retrograde I've ever experienced. I feel like no one was understanding me, and like no websites, nothing worked. This is an exaggeration, but now I feel like we're out of it. And so for you,
That's
it feels
interesting.
more intense. That's interesting. Yeah.
Mm. I think it affects people differently. Um, but yeah, I feel like I got so much decluttering done. Just mental decluttering, letting go of attachments that that were weighing me down. And obviously, we do the things that we do, and then we can always say, okay, was that or was that? We At the end of the day, we don't know what was the thing that caused the shift. I think it's an accumulation of many things, but yeah, I feel like myself again.
Me too.
How? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the mini playback show where they went into the Zauberkugel
Yeah.
and that little tunnel, and then at the end they come out dressed as their biggest idol?
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Out,
Ta-da!
out of the Zauberkugel. We're back. We're back. We're back for the last month of the year.
Yes, the warrior costume is on.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I want to hear from you. If you had to sum up last month in 3 words, what words would you choose and why?
Hmm. Mm, the rebirth, introspective, and centered.
Okay.
How about you?
Discernment, rescheduling, and hermit.
Mm. Yeah, we both had that, right? I don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to. I'm too busy being myself.
Yeah, and I've had this to an extent that I've never had it before, because usually processing and talking about what's going on with people is like my number one
tool that helps me so much. It just by talking about things, I kind of get clarity. It's almost as though I was like some sort of like self-projected or mental projector, like talking things through helps. But this month I was like, I don't even want to talk to anyone about anything. I don't want to hear any outside perspectives. I don't want to be swayed by anyone. There's a very few select people that I'm dropping information to. And then, and that was it. So it was a very new kind of going into the shell.
Yeah. I feel like I have this maybe once or twice a year over a longer period. Like, obviously, you have it maybe for a day or two here and there. Um, and it's almost like you get a reset, just factory reset, everything back to Werkseinstellung.
Yeah.
um, yeah, and it's nice, and it's also very aligned with Scorpio season. I find it so fascinating, like, once you really pay attention to the themes of the seasons, why a Scorpio is called, the sign of, like, intensity. A lot of, things get dug up and then, looked at again, and then either you kill it or you you revive it, and I feel like the dying, the pausing that had to happen for us to then build something new.
Mm, yeah, interesting. So for the listeners, Scorpio, like you said, water sign, going deep, potentially being very emotional and going to all the dark, deep themes. And what kind of themes that are is kind of dependent on where you have Scorpio in your chart, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that's the second house. And it was all about my value and money, kind of.
Oh,
And
interesting.
what house do you have Scorpio in?
Seventh house, so relationships.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So, and I think that's why I felt so re re-energized, because a lot of what was consuming my mind or just taking up space in my energy was old attachments to like relationship attachments. And it's almost like I don't really think about it that much anymore. It's if I close my eyes and I feel into that connection, it's so far away that I don't for me it's almost dead. It's almost like it didn't exist. It's yeah.
Mm. And I want to share something with the listeners that you shared with me the other day about your identity in relationships. It's almost as though your idea of who you are in relationships has gotten an upgrade too, because you were speaking about, coming out, like there being a cycle coming out of a relationship and then finding yourself again. And because especially as a projector, we do get really intertwined, and it takes a lot of work for us to, I guess, maintain our own sense of self. Mm. And so there's a new kind of, oh, this is who I am. This is what feels good for me. I feel really like myself. I'm coming out of the Zauberkugel having my warrior costume on. And then there was a question of, okay, are we able to maintain this when we go back into a relationship? Or is there always a sense of like intertwining, and do I even want that? If this is what happens in a relationship, do I even want that? um yeah, what's your reflections on that? Because I haven't listened to your voice note.
um yeah, like I think with this newfound freedom and mental space, I was then thinking there's a pattern. Like, being in relationship obviously means you have benefits and you have needs met that you wouldn't have met in that way if you weren't in that relationship, but it's always a two-sided coin. It comes with um it comes with a merging of lives, of energies, and obviously that depends on your relationship. Like if everyone, it's different, and they're comfortable with different levels of merging. And at the same time, it's just there's a human being in your life that takes up a lot of your heart space. A lot of you share the same maybe living space with them. You share a lot of mental tasks with them, and you're just enmeshed with them. And so what I reflected on it was that I obviously every relationship is different, but that is something that's really important to me, that when I enter a new relationship, that both people have their own sense of self and their lives, and obviously there's a shared desire of wanting to spend time together, um, but that both parties always make an effort and be like, hey, are we too much in each other's energy? um, and yeah, I don't know, because for me really every relationship is, it's different, and then it's also the same because you have similar patterns. um, but I was just wondering if it actually gave me a new perspective on being single, on not being in a relationship. Because when you're not in a relationship, very often, unless you're at the stage where I'm at now, you're like, oh my God, I wish I don't know, I had someone to cuddle and things like that. And then you realize, wait a minute, I feel so free. There's like such a such a calmness in my brain and in my energy. And when I think back to being in a relationship, it wasn't always like that, because then you come home and then someone maybe, hey, what do we do for dinner? It's like always, there's always another person that has needs, and that's there, that typically you don't say for 3 weeks, hey, I'm gonna put you in the shelf and I don't want to hear from you. Because you also have the desire to connect with them, it's not only that you don't, it goes both ways. And so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna enjoy it. It's actually really nice to be so free and so independent, and it's gonna change at some point, but that's just the different seasons of life. Um, and that gave me a lot of space and a lot of joy again for example, like being open to dating again, and because I'm like, I don't need this. If it happens, it happens, but yeah.
Mm,
It's also nice how it is.
yeah, what a beautiful perspective. And I think this is one of like whatever you're looking at in your life, and wherever you have a desire to change something or call in something new, I think what you've just described is probably the key to making it work. And it's so paradox, because you'd be like, if I want something new, then doesn't that mean that I'm unhappy with what is? And that's like where our mind gets wrapped up, and we get to accept that the key to something new that is amazing is by loving what we already have and enjoying that and not needing it, maybe wanting it, maybe like daydreaming about it, maybe not. And also like understanding how beautiful and rich and special the experience that you're having right now is. And that's a challenge, right? Because our minds get so wrapped up in, oh, but look at that. How was that? And oh, I want that. And look at here. And let's compare there. And yeah. So this whole season, being in a season for something, I think, yeah, that's.
Yeah, and also taking the thing that you want off the pedestal. And I think that's a journey. It's first you're not, you say you don't want it. Then you're like, okay, actually I do want it. And then you make it almost too big, because you realize that I have a desire for this, how your life would change if you had XYZ, the partner, the money, the home, whatever it is. And then you probably realize, okay, just because I want it doesn't mean the universe is just gonna give it to me right away. There's actually a lot of things in life that you just don't get them by working hard. Like you can't get love by working hard. Yes, you can work hard on yourself.
But even
But
that won't get you to a place of love. I've tried, like this
yeah.
was like the first few years of my like healing journey. Sorry to interrupt, but even like it's not the approach. So back to you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think because we come from this training of you go to school, you have good grades, and then when you have good grades, you're gonna get a good job, and then you go to university, then you have a good degree there. And it's like it's always built on you do something and then there's an outcome and then you get the reward. And I think this is the biggest lie that we've been told, and it doesn't work like that. And one of the and this is also not ultimately true, but where I feel like it is true is, for example, working out, eating healthy. Obviously, unless you have some conditions or there's more like emotional mental blockages, but usually when you work out a few times a week, you see results, right? Or if you there's a few things where you're like, okay, I do X and then Z happens. But when it comes to manifesting or love, it just doesn't work like that. And I also, and this is something that has helped me a lot to understand, hey, everything happens in the timing it's supposed to happen. And yes, 100 people can tell you, no, you can manifest everything you want. And I don't believe in that. I think manifesting is a mix of being prepared and divine timing and aligned action. Obviously, you can't sit still on the couch and then expect something new to happen. But a big part of that is also surrendering and just letting it go and being like, okay, I really want this. I guess I think my life could be even better if I had said relationship, for example. But because I can't control it, how can I enjoy where I'm at right now? And then just rearranging your perspective on it and not seeing yourself as less than because you don't have something that you want. And it's almost a practice of like brainwashing yourself into liking what you have. And that also is a journey.
Yeah. 1,000%. Like as you were speaking, I was thinking about, for me, it's always a question of what do I need in order to be able to enjoy my reality right now? Of course, right? Need motivation. Like what is needed for me in order to be able to have a good time and to have capacity to perceive the beauty, because it is there. If I'm not perceiving it, that usually means that I'm either focused on something else, that I'm giving too much attention to the problem or the thing or whatever it is and the lack of it, or that I have absolutely overworked my body and there's no capacity in my nervous system to hold this right now. So then probably it's just rest. So loads of like different approaches, but I feel like there's an individual answer for everybody, for you, for me, for people listening to, okay, what is required in order to be able to just be like a little bit more grateful, to like switch your perspective like 1% on what's happening right now. Because if you're hating where you're at right now, if this is like a problem, if you're like, fuck, I feel I wish I wasn't single, or oh, I wish I had more work, or oh, I wish I didn't have so much work. And you've been there for a while, it might be quite the stretch to go to, I love being single, I love my job, and I love my free time, or whatever it is. And so I think the baby steps from one end to the other, that makes sense. Like last week, I was teaching, and after my reformer classes is a yoga nidra class, I ran into a person, and I asked her whether she was going to go to the nidra, and she said yes. And then I asked her what it was like when I saw her next time, and she said, oh, and I was like, oh, was the nidra not good? And I was really surprised because I love a nidra, and she said, no, it wasn't the class, it was me. I had a brain scan last week, and the doctor told me that basically I am not able to slow down at all, and I've been in fight or flight since my childhood. And so yoga nidra is way too much for me. Like I was just there, my mind was running, and I wasn't able to go into any of the relaxation. And it was such a good reminder for me. I was like, yeah, of course, maybe we have all been in like a state like this at the beginning of our journey, and maybe we're so far in now that we can't relate anymore. And this was a beautiful reminder that yes, sometimes we actually need baby steps, like tiny steps into relaxation or towards whatever it is that you're stretching to.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's where I find human design so helpful, because at the end of the day, we make our decisions with our intuition. And for most of us, that intuition is in the body. There's also different different types, but let's say for the majority of people, um, they need to be able to connect with their body in order to hear their intuition. And that is really hard when you have a mind that's yapping nonstop and it's constantly bombarding you with new thoughts and new conversations and chats and whatever it's doing. And so what I find really helpful is to understand the patterns of my mind. Like, how is my mind speaking to me? And it's not to say that we don't need a mind, we don't need thoughts. It's a super useful computer that is helping us to understand and conceptualize the things that are happening for us in this life. But if we don't fine tune it and we don't understand, okay, these kind of thoughts are actually helping me be in alignment with my body and relaxed so that I can then access my intuition, versus these thoughts constantly pull me into resistance, into stress, into feeling very rigid, then it becomes really hard to understand yourself. Because at the end of the day, you can't switch off your mind. You can't switch off the thoughts. So you have to work with them. And you have need motivation. I have hope motivation. And that really, it helps me so much to be like, are these thoughts coming from control, coming from a feeling of I need to fix something, I need to go in? Like, for example, let's say you're single and you have hope motivation, like me. And you constantly think, if I don't fix something, if I'm not on the apps, if I don't put myself out there, if I don't do X, Y, Z, I'm gonna miss the boat. The window is gonna close and I'm gonna end up alone as a cat lady or cat boy. And that is actually not a mindset that is helping you to get to where you want to be, because it's creating friction and tension in your mind. And so what a person with hope motivation would need is a lot of trust. So I listen to a lot of people that have this frequency of, it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. Like, look at this. Like, I like to listen to a lot of miracle stories or hero stories where people have these crazy, challenging times, and then plot twist and something happens. Because that's the frequency that works for me. And when I'm in that frequency, my body is relaxed. I can hear the little whispers of my intuition on where to go, and then the miracles start to happen again, and I have chance encounters and things like that. And then for someone with, for example, guilt motivation, it would be the complete opposite. It's if I would tell them to be like, "Oh, don't worry, just hope and wish and pull some cards," it would just make their mind go even more crazy. And so this is how human design is really helping people to understand what can I specifically do in a situation of mental stress, of mental overwhelm, because there is no one size fits all. How would that be for you? Already said that you're thinking then, okay, what do I need? What?
Yeah, like what is usually like the focus is either, because if we look at need motivation, which is related to the fourth line, right? In genetic continuity, there's like a connection to the lines, and need motivation relates to the fourth line because it is number 4 if we look at the arrows. But if you don't understand what we're saying, do not worry. It's okay. Just
Not that important, yeah.
exactly. So connection to the networker, the opportunist, kind of the person who goes into the network. So there is for me a desire to not want to be alone with what I'm going through. So often I will want to share, I will want to hear someone's opinion, and I will kind of, put what I'm sharing to a person that I trust. But then you can also take it very literal, and I will look for like the one thing, what is needed right now to make me feel better. And sometimes there will be like, oh, I think I just need to open the window, or I think I actually need some movement, or how about I cook some chicken? Like it will be usually a very practical, simple thing that I can bring in. Whereas the opposite, like the binary that is on the opposite of that fear motivation, right? That would be so like then I might like, let's make a whole plan. Let's figure this out. Let's sit down with ChatGPT or probably that. And let's make a whole plan that I can stick to that will make me feel like I'm in control again. And that is the opposite of what works for me. And I know when I'm doing it. And sometimes I have to do it for a little bit because this is how the mind works. It is kind of binary in order to remember and gather evidence of how this is really not working out for me. So it's interesting when you were speaking about the things earlier that definitely lead to success if you stick to doing them. And you mentioned working out. And I was thinking, yes, you will definitely see results if you work out a few times a week. And like, I've approached this from a fear motivation perspective in like making the perfect plan and in sticking to it, because that's something that comes very easy to me, which is also interesting from a human design perspective. Oftentimes the more leaned back motivations are very comfortable in the doing, and the active, proactive motivations are very comfortable in the leaning back. So the doing is easy for me, and creating a plan and almost overdoing it because it's opposite of what I'm meant to be doing leads to chaos and coming out of balance. So yes, I did see very fast results, and my body changed very quickly, but also some of my super important health markers went out of the window, and it was like a very clear response of my body of like, this is not working for your body here right now. And it's so clear. I'm like, because I wasn't listening to my body. I was following an external strategy that wasn't aligned with me. And it's so beautiful how we can go through these phases, and all that is required in the end is being able to hold your hand and be like, okay, look what we did here. I understand why you did that. I understand where you came from. And now let me take your hand and let's look at what is actually needed.
Yeah, I agree. And to be honest, without this piece of information from human design, I don't think I would be able to soothe myself or have so much compassion for myself or talk myself out of mental loops. And there's still a time and a place and a need for deep healing therapy like hypnotherapy or other modalities. And at the same time, for me, it's about the everyday. Like, I can't have a hypnotherapy session every time, and obviously there's variations where you can do it, like in a few minutes, but I still need to understand how I work, because when it comes to, again, like wanting something or setting a goal, um, and then you continuously find yourself in situations where you get really frustrated, you get really sad, you get maybe depressed because you're just not reaching it, or maybe, as you said, you're reaching your goal, but then something still doesn't feel right. And it's, what they say, when you create something with the wrong motivation, and then you have, let's say, $1 million, and you're still not happy because it didn't feel aligned how you got there. You felt like you were maybe betraying yourself, or that was not the thing that you actually wanted and you thought it was going to make you happy. And that's why for me, everything starts with self-awareness. If you don't know how you work and what you need, then everything that you approach is either gonna like have a heaviness to it, or it's just gonna feel like a glove that fits, and you're like, no, I'm gonna do it my way and I'm gonna tailor it. And everything that you learn, like, not every person can give you a tailored version of what you need. um but that's why it's so important that when you take a new course or you learn a new hobby or you get into investing, that you know how you can tailor something so that it works for you. Because obviously, like, you can hire people to help you with that, if you have the resources. But eventually, I think that, at least for me, the goal is that I know how to do it myself and I don't need anyone. But I can talk to someone if I want to, but I'm not like relying on constant outside guidance and confirmation, because that also then is not really in balance or aligned for me.
Classic third line. Yeah, as you were speaking, it reminded me of in Kabbalah, they say, right? If you're approaching something from, I don't really want to say like the wrong motivation, but let's just call it that right now and say, because I'm missing the better word. So let's say you're investing because you want to be rich, because you think that would make you better than other people. In Kabbalah, they say you then get given the thing relatively quickly in order to remember and transcend and kind of recorrect the motivation, which I find super cool. So if you're approaching a relationship because you think you don't want to be alone, you have to kind of experience exactly that in your relationship in order to correct it. And then you can either stay in the relationship or you can keep the wealth or whatever it is, but you're kind of, it's like you cracked the back into place, and suddenly the energy can flow freely alongside the spine again. But I also wanted to ask you, because you shared earlier about, thoughts that feel kind of productive and thoughts that feel counterproductive for you. Would you be open to sharing some of those like mental habits from your side?
Yes. Let me think of an example. So for me, what I noticed about, for example, content creation in the past months is that obviously there's always thoughts inside of my brain that say, you could do this, why don't you do that, why don't you do it, and like constantly, like almost like a nagging voice that is always trying to animate me to do more, to fix something, to like show up and whatnot. And when I manage to just let these thoughts pass, and I trust that, because sometimes I act on the thoughts because I'm like, oh yeah, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the intuition, or maybe this is what I have to do now. And if I don't act on that thought, maybe no new idea is gonna come. Maybe this is as good as it gets. And again, with hope motivation, the trust muscle that I need to train in this life is trust and surrender. If it's the right thing, you're gonna feel it. You're just gonna take action. It's gonna flow to you. You don't have to have a mastermind in your brain with like, okay, Monday this, Tuesday 2 reels, whatever it is. It's gonna come to you and it's gonna feel effortless. And whenever I acted on these intuitive messages that dropped in, I got a lot of people reacting to it and shares and likes. Not that that means anything, but it's just a confirmation that you don't have to always do. And obviously, both of us, we have surrendered motivation. So again, it's personal. It's not the same for you listening unless you have, and even if you have hope motivation, there's so many other configurations in your chart that give your motivation a different flavor. But yeah, that has really like confirmed to me I don't have to worry in between, because the next thing is gonna come. Also when you have obviously when you have your first relationship and that ends, it's different because you haven't experienced you getting over it yet. You haven't experienced being in love again. But once you did that a couple of times, you just know, okay, it's gonna hurt, it's gonna sting, but life's gonna go on.
Uh-huh.
Everything, like the seasons, the leaves fall off the trees, and then the snow comes, and then spring comes again. It doesn't stop.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because I feel like humans, we tend to be so, I don't know what it is, but even like the actual seasons of life, the darkness and the winter and the summer, at every start of a new season, I find myself thinking, what did I wear? What did I wear last winter? I feel like I've got nothing to wear. Where are all my clothes? What was I wearing? And then the inward phase starts. And this year, for example, it's been particularly intense for me because I had such a massive year with so much change. So, of course, there's like a lot of integration needed. And I can catch myself having thoughts like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? What is wrong? I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to go out. I want to hibernate. And then, I come back to, oh, okay, let's just take this feeling by the hand for a moment. Can we just sit with that for a little while? But it's so interesting that I need to remind myself constantly of that when I shift into a new season. It's like we get used to the highs, the outward living, the sunshine, the season of productivity and engagement, and we want to hold on to it. I mean, I do sometimes. And then when we shift, it takes some time to remember and be like, oh, okay, this is part of it too. Oh, it's not, nothing is wrong here. It's just a leaning back. And actually, if we look at this from a human design perspective and we look at the cycles for each type, it makes so much sense, right? Our generators have their plateau learning phases in which they speed up after they respond, and then after a while nothing happens anymore and it's time to integrate until they respond again. For projectors or any other non-sacral beings, there's also a like, okay, when there's no energy left, depending on how many motors you have, well, time to rest. And especially when you push the boat out too far, the resting period is going to be a little longer. Yeah, reflectors going along with the moon. So if you don't have looked at the pattern yet, it might feel a little bit all over the place until you recognize the pattern. Same with the seasons. If you don't realize there's a pattern here, you might be like, oh my God, what's happening? Or with emotional people, you don't recognize that there's a pattern. You'll be like, oh no, we're going down again. No. Yeah, so it's
Yeah, and I feel like that's what I mean with the awareness that everything that is exactly how it's meant to be, is what human design is giving you, because it's helping you to understand how you work, how your unique pattern works, how it interplays with other people's patterns and with the pattern of the universe and the seasons and all of that. And just just that knowing, I feel like uh, if we all had more trust, we could just surrender to who we were, to what we feel is aligned right now. And I think, and that's also what I noticed, that the more you um, accept yourself and the more that you accept the limitations that you have, and you're just like, okay, I maybe am not like super good in maths, but that's just how it is. Yes, I could work on it and I could spend hours on it, but I might as well just focus on skills that I already have and that comes super easy to me. And then I built my life around that. And if we had that trust, then yeah, I believe a lot of people wouldn't do a lot of things anymore that they're currently doing, because the motivation behind it is maybe fear or lack, or like I also think so many less people would be in relationships, because so many people are in relationships they're actually not really fulfilling and happy. And at the same time, everything is nuanced. Even if a relationship isn't aligned, you needed that relationship in order to figure it out, that maybe you wanted to be alone.
yes. Yeah. It's showing you more of what's not working in order to clarify what you want, which is so cool. I'm like, okay, this is all very smartly set up. There's to me, I enjoy the idea of finding meaning in everything, and I understand, okay, well, that's just my mind. That's what gives me safety and trust, but that's okay. If that's working for me, that's okay. But I want to ask you a question that I listened or came across in an audiobook this week, and I really loved it. And it is, totally different topic, but do you think that you've grown up to be a person that your child version, little Lea, would have looked up to?
Yes, it's a bit hard for me to answer that, because I don't think that I had any concept of the future when I was a child. I was just busy trying to survive.
Mm,
But if I think about what child Lea would have needed, I would say yes.
I think you totally grew up. I mean, I don't know what little Lea specifically would have liked, but I know what children like and they enjoy. And if I look at you and your personality and your ability to, what kind of, share from the heart, and the willingness to engage in playful activity, the willingness to be physically close to someone, to pour your attention and intention into someone. I think there's so many traits that um, you have been able to preserve that sometimes get lost in adults. And that also create this, well, you've just touched on the idea of inviting miracles into your life, that happens because you communicate in a certain way. That happens because you say things that maybe not everybody would say out loud. That happens because of standing up for yourself in a certain way, and so on and so forth. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, first of all, thank you.
You're welcome.
While you were talking, I actually realized what I always wanted to be, and I think that's a person that just understands what's going on inside of me and that validates it. And I have a Capricorn North Node, so my South Node is in Cancer. My comfort zone is in feeling and is in drowning in my moods and my emotions. And in this life, I get to learn to be my own parent and be like, it's okay to feel like that, but we still have things that we want to achieve today, and take a breather. It's okay. Get a hot chocolate or whatever, but keep moving. And yeah, and I feel like obviously I'm not fully there yet because life still has a few years in store for me, but I understand how I work. I understand what I need. I often don't judge myself for needing what I need. And and that's been a long journey. How about you?
Yeah, I also think yes. Like totally different to what I thought I would do or be. Because, I'm a projector. I always was obsessed with being recognized and seen. So I was like, once I saw High School Musical for the first time, I was like, I'm going to be a movie star. Or maybe it's going to happen. We don't know. But I think, I think what I'm most proud of that a child would really feel and appreciate is that I make space and time to see and meet myself. And because of that, I can also do it better than when I was a child or a younger adult with other people. And I think people feel that, like, especially children, they realize when your attention is on them, and it is actually on them. And so I think one of my biggest pain points as a child was I felt that I wasn't seen or recognized for who I was, and that my environment tried to shape me into what they wanted me to be. And this is how it works often, right? We have experienced some pain, and that gets transformed into a certain strength. Like, for example, me now making sure that the people I am sitting with, I meet them where they are, and I don't judge where they are. At least I'm trying not to. And yeah, I think little Paula would have really liked that. And yeah, I think it's such a fun way to reflect. It's like, okay. And to correct too, because there are some areas in which we might excel. And then there may be other areas where our child would be like, oh, that doesn't feel good. Why are you doing that? No, I don't want that. And sometimes the solution might be like, okay, we'll meet you and we'll buy you a hot chocolate, but we'll keep going because this is important for X, Y, and Z reasons. And sometimes we might be pausing and we might be like, actually, I think you're right. You're right. Let's just stop this and take a breath and go play.
Yeah, I agree. Nice. Nice question. Also to ask yourself.
Yeah. Before we wrap up today, I want you to share just like one little plug about your offer and when it's gonna go live. If you have a date, do you have a date?
It's probably gonna go live with this podcast. It's already, everything is done. Everything is ready, prepared.
Oh.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about motivations and having desires or having goals and knowing how to approach or to, I cannot promise you that you're going to reach your goals. That's up to you. And that's also up to the universe, what is in store for you in this life. But as we already talked about the human design motivations. I find them so helpful in order to understand the mental landscape that you that supports you in reaching the goal with ease and with clarity and with alignment, versus which thoughts are only going to pull you onto this path of resistance while you're trying to achieve what you want to achieve. And for that, I created the Hopeful Spouse workshop, which is a mix of a manifestation meets grounded action steps. So we're going to use the Rauhnächte, which is the 12 nights between Christmas and the 6th of January. Super long word. That's why I like to call it Rauhnächte. We're going to use your human design motivation and your the theme for your year, and we're going to take that from astrology. And with all of that, we're formulating 13 aligned goals. And only one of them you have to take care of yourself, because 12 of them we're going to give over to the universe. And there's a ritual that I will walk you through in the workshop. And it's just like a really nice, magical thing to do for the time, between Christmas and the New Year, when you don't really have anything to do anyway. And yeah, for me, it really helped me so much. I've been doing this now for 2-3 years, and it's not like, I say, oh, I want to achieve like $1 million or whatever, like a really hard goal. It helps you to it's a practical exercise you can do to understand, what is my intention actually? Is my intention aligned with the way that I'm designed to reach my goals, or am I drifting away? And it also helps you when you're going through your year and you're being presented with tests or obstacles. For example, I think it was last year, my theme was career, public image. The wish that was remaining that I had to take care of myself was, I work with people who see and recognize me. And so because this was my job, I had the opportunity to decline offers or invitations that weren't aligned with that. So when someone would request a session with me and I could feel, you actually don't want to hear what I have to say, I feel like you don't really see me, I would say no, because that was my job for that year. And it would help me so much to make decisions and see obstacles as tests that are just going to get me closer into like the next level. So yeah, that's what the Hopeful Spells workshop is.
Exciting. Probably when we record the next episode, we're not done with the process, but we might have started the process and we can share about it a little bit. And people, if you don't have an accountability partner, you can come listen to the podcast and have us as your accountability partners, which is so fun. Okay, thank you so much, Lea. You guys can find all the information for that in the show notes. And we're going to see you here next month.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for being here today and listening along to Human Design 101 with me, your host, Paula Fehrmann. I trust that you received exactly what you needed from today's episode, and I love how the universe matched us today. If you enjoy listening and learning with me, please leave a review wherever you are listening to this podcast so that more people can unlock their true selves and ultimately become who they were meant to be using human design. Until next time, lots of love and bye-bye.